So in this section, I'd like to take just a couple minutes to highlight what we do know and what we don't know yet about the relation between stress and cancer. And so first I want to just spend just a minute talking about a little bit about how cancer actually impacts the immune system and why it's so hard to treat, right? We have so many people working on curing cancer. There's so many different types of cancer, but it's a really difficult problem because the proteins on the surface of cancer cells, right, we said before that proteins on the surface of cells form a structure that helps other cells to identify that, and when our body isn't able to do so or does so incorrectly, that's when problems occur. And with cancer, what's happening is that there's proteins on the surface of these cells that prevent T cells from latching onto them and prevents the immune system from recognizing that these cells are foreign. So when they get into the body may not even be able to recognize them in order to attack them. It's very difficult to do so. And it also, cancer helps, it recruits your own immune system to help metastasize. It can take over lymphocytes and take over aspects of your lymph nodes to help to spread the cancer throughout your body. And so it can take advantage of your immune system, which should be fighting it off, to help to spread itself. And this is part of what makes it so difficult to treat. Currently, we treat it with things like chemotherapy and radiation that just blast the whole body. They try to kill those cancer cells, but they also kill all kinds of other cells, including all of your lymphocytes of your immune system. So we do knock out a lot of cancer cells, but we also knock out all your other immunity. And so this is why people are so weak and sick when they're going through chemotherapy and radiation, and why we worry a lot about exposing them to other things, because yes, we're certainly killing their cancer, which is their most dangerous thing that they're facing right now, but that does leave them vulnerable to other infections and other things while their immune system is weakened. I hope that in the future, when we're teaching health psychology in 20, 50 years, we'll look back and think, wow, I can't believe we did that to people. That was such a crude treatment. In the same way, when I teach the early lectures and we look back and think, I can't believe people put leeches on people to think that that would heal them. But, we know that this isn't the best solution, but right now it's one of the best ones that we have. But I think in the future, and we'll talk a little bit about this, we're getting better at creating targeted therapies for treating cancer and for helping our immune system to be able to recognize and attack these cells. But so right now, the treatment using chemotherapy and radiation further weakens the immune system. And so, again, this is one of the impacts that cancer has on the immune system itself. And then thinking about the role of stress, right? People are very interested in, does stress cause cancer? And to that, I would say right now we don't have a good answer. Right? If you follow the evidence, it would suggest that no, it doesn't cause cancer. But as we'll see, there is some evidence that it does impact the growth and spread of cancer. But there is very little evidence that it impacts the onset or getting cancer, but it might impact your progression of that. And there's some different theories about why this is. And again, we don't really know the answer to this yet. Sapolsky walks through a lot of this evidence, and I've looked at the updated versions of this, and we still don't know a whole lot more since then. But there's a few different theories as to how stress could impact cancer and the spread of cancer. The first is that stress weakens the immune system, and we do know that that's true, right? We've just covered that, and that this could prevent the immune system from detecting and destroying developing cancer cells. And there is some evidence that this is part of the relation between stress and cancer. But it's not 100%, and it certainly doesn't seem like this is accounting for causing it, but it might help prevent you from being able to fight off the spread of cancer once you have it. That if your immune system is really weakened, then you might not be as good at defending against that. Another reason that this might occur, or another theory for the relation between stress and the spread of cancer, is that stress hormones could promote the growth and spread of tumors, that it could be really due to cortisol and other hormones that are released with stress, and this could be the mechanism behind that. Another theory is that it could really be due to the risk of chronic inflammation that occurs with stress, right? We've said chronic stress leads to this inflammation due to immune processes, and it could really be that inflammation that's the mechanism that's leading to more cancer spread. And then probably the one that has the strongest evidence currently is the behavioral influences, right? When we're stressed, we might be more likely to drink or smoke, less likely to exercise. Many of the things that are stressful could be directly damaging to the body. One of the early studies that was purported to really strongly show the relation between stress and depression and cancer was, they found out later that it was fully confounded by the fact that the people who were really depressed and stressed were doing work around really toxic chemicals. And so clearly there are some behavioral factors and exposure factors that can influence this. And as we know, as health psychologists, there's lots of behavioral things we can do that increase our risk of disease, including cancer, or at least certain types like lung cancer. And so behavioral influences may come into play here. And so that has been shown, at least in many types of cancer, as a way in which stress can impact both getting cancer, right? If you smoke more, you are more likely to get lung cancer, but also could impact the spread of cancer as well, the behavioral things that you engage in. And so, yeah, that's to sum that up. Yeah, we have some evidence that stress may impact the growth and spread, but very little evidence, at least at this point, that it impacts the onset of cancer. There seem to be just many other variables that come into play there. And so this is still an active question, right? We're still very much working on the problem of who gets cancer and why, and how do we cure that. But some evidence that helps to support the role of stress in the spread of cancer is research showing that social support and isolation impact prognosis with cancer. And so people who have more social support are more likely to have better outcomes of given the same diagnosis. Studies where they isolated rats and mice who had cancer, they died faster. And so there does seem to be, again, some of these psychological effects, but also this is specifically stressful, right? Being alone and being isolated is very stressful. And so that psychological stress seems to impact the immune system and the physiology, leading to cancer to spread more quickly when socially isolated and less quickly when social support. Again, there's so many other factors in certain types of cancer, so it's not saying that if that's the main factor or the only factor. Certainly you could have as much social support as you could possibly need and still die of cancer if you have a really aggressive type. But there does seem to be evidence for these having an effect on the spread of cancer. So these are important moderating variables. Another really promising avenue, both just in terms of thinking about stress and the impact on cancer, but also for treating it, is immunotherapy. And it turns out there's actually several different types of immunotherapy for cancer, and we're not going to go into all of them. There's many different that scientists are looking into to try to treat this, but they all capitalize on a few different things where you're essentially creating some type of injection that you're going to give the person that helps their immune system to better recognize and attack those cells. And they do this in a few different ways. They try to teach it what the protein structure looks like of a cancer cell. They try to teach it better to recognize the body versus those. And they'll also engage in other types of, let me see. Those are really the main ones, right? So I'd say the main thing is they inject something that helps your body to be able to recognize those protein structures and create the necessary recognition systems to help you to treat that and to recover from cancer faster. And so these are promising. This is not yet shown for all types, and there's still a lot of work being done for this. It's in the very early testing stages, but this is probably the most promising breakthrough that there's been in a long time in terms of treating cancer. So again, this indicates that there is a role of the immune system, and so if we can boost the immune system and amp that up through immunotherapy, that can help to prevent the spread of cancer. That's what I wanted to say about that.